I'd like to talk about the unit plan I wrote, but first I'll go over some of the students I will teach and some goals and some observations. I'm not working in a classroom. I'm an education student right now, and I'll begin student teaching in spring. So for the purpose of this discussion, I've adopted, so to speak, students at West Chester High School. I picked the school because the school focuses on science. It's a science magnet, and demographically, the school is an inner city school, as most of the students there are transfers. There are 3/4 African American and 20% Hispanic. 3/4 are low SES and qualify for free lunch. API scores are right around 700, so a tiny bit up from previous years. CST scores are mixed all over the place. For example, algebra is 0 to 4% proficient, but geometry next year, students take, is well above the state average. Language is not an issue. Only 35 students out of 1,400 are classified as English learners. I was able to observe 4 science teachers at West Chester High. I also interviewed the teachers and some of the students. I'll use these observations along with some research papers to justify what I put into the unit plan. I have a short-term and a long-term goal. The short-term goal is to be observant and thoughtful and develop a teaching style that is synthesized from the best that I've observed in high school classrooms and from what I've learned at the university. This will serve my long-term goal of helping students to see the world in a way that science sees it, that is based on observation, analysis, and critical thinking. Maybe just to show a few of them that they can get into a field that's interesting. A technical field would be interesting for them, and to that end, I've tried to make the unit plan interesting and engaging, and hopefully they'll see it as something that they, other than a chore that they just have to finish, something that they really want to come to and see every day. Some research notes I want to cover before I continue on. I wanted to have some kind of hands-on activity in every class. Then I had to decide what kind of activity based on how effective it would be and the available time as well. Randy Bell's 2005 article was good in that it breaks down the kind of activity into 4 levels that are a little bit analogous to Bloom's taxonomy. Bell said not all activities need to be inquiry-based, and the level should be increased over the year. This is a evolution unit that goes at about the middle of the year, so I've made the activities by Bell's suggestion about the middle of his spectra of activity types. Selection bias, so I was happy to find a 2010 paper, and it had a huge sample size and sophisticated statistical analysis. It convinced me that hands-on is what matters. Also, my observations and reading tells me that I want to put students into groups. I've seen it done both ways, and into groups or not, and groups work. I think students learn by interacting and using their knowledge in an authentic way to solve a real problem. There's quite a bit of literature on group sizes. Cooper's 1990 paper, Nurnberg's 1995, both address the pros and cons of large groups and small groups, and they pretty much say you want 2 to 6. I've picked 4 really as a practical matter because the unit plan is written assuming group size of 4. Now let's walk through my unit plan. This unit covers the theory of evolution. The essential question put to students is simply, how did every organism we see come to be the way it is? The answer I want them to understand at the end of the unit is the one based on population genetics, or the gene pool. I teach the unit in the historic order. That is the order in which the science was discovered. This order works well with science because I think for science, the concepts become naturally more advanced as you go along. And this fits in well with Vygotsky's ZPD and all of that too. As we become more complex over time, we'll follow the history too. So I decided to start with Darwin. I designed this unit, and I'll do other units. What they say is backwards. The idea is pretty old in engineering. I think the Wright brothers used it. Taylor wrote about it in the education context in the 40s, and then we see some more recent papers. All of them really say the same thing. Students are less likely to be lost if you've designed everything they see to the end result that you want. And I think of it kind of like a funnel. Sometimes you see this at the end, where someone modifies their lesson to fit the needs of some English learners or someone else. I'm putting it up here, and I'll get to that why. I've known about universal design as an architectural concept for a long time. It's a way to build a building that everybody could use, and it doesn't depend on tacking on things like wheelchair ramps after the fact. So it means you start early. You start thinking about all the people that are going to come in and how they could get around, what they're going to do in your building. Within a unit, all of my lessons follow the same general formula or plan. Students, I think, like this. They like to know that you're going to have several segments, one's going to follow the other. And also it makes my planning easier, and I could fold in modifications easier if I have an overall meta plan, I guess you used to say, for lessons. I always start with a hook, and that's a video that plays just until the students are settled in class, while they're coming in usually. And then it ends, and we'll talk a little bit about it, and that's the end of it. It's just to fill up the space, really, and to get them focused on looking at the front of the class, not talking. We really start with some sort of an activity, IBE. The IBE. Really, the purpose, as I see it, is to head off the usual question. Why do we have to study blah, blah? I'm not going to do... if this is done right, the students won't even think of this. They'll be so much into the process of whatever your activity is that the learning will come as a byproduct, and they won't be asking, do I have to do this? Will this be on the test? They'll just do it because it's fun, I hope. An example of one of these is the Google Street View of Galapagos. They could explore the island. Most of the trails and even underwater has been mapped with a Google Street View camera. So you could go down with these trails and do a 360-degree pivot and see what the island looks like and pretend. Well, these interactive mini lectures that I talked about that are 3 to 5 minutes, I'm not teaching right now, but I've observed several teachers, and some do this and some don't. And there's such a difference. I'm a convert. This is the way I'm going to go. These short lectures followed by some sort of discussion and writing on a whiteboard or discussion with a group, they keep the students occupied, and they don't even think about getting off topic. They don't have time. They're really engaged. I was keeping careful notes. Then I looked at some of the teachers that do a more traditional long form. There's some inattention in every case. I never saw all the students on task. And I was there, 20-some hours. It's 20-some class periods. Sometimes the classroom was a mess. I wouldn't want to be that teacher. Now, active practice. I guess like a religion, you pick one of these philosophies. I'm a social constructivist, and there's loads of papers that talk about this, and like religion, you believe it or not. But when it comes to hands-on, that's science. You can't ignore it. You have to do that. So if you're a social constructivist wanting to do hands-on, that means group work. That means several students working together to solve some problem. And I've done this in the plans. You'll see that every topic is followed by some sort of an active practice, and I've made them so they're not a chore. The students will get them done and do well on them. The other thing is that you want to practice the way you'll use it. The military says, I hate to use their term, but they say train the way you fight. Well, you don't do worksheets. Assessment is important. Everybody wants to know about grades, and some students are motivated by them. Some parents are motivated. I want to know how well I'm doing. So there's lots of reasons to do different types of assessments, and the way I've decided here after looking at several teachers reading is the projects are going to count for about just under half the grade. And these are calibrated so that the students can do well on them. If they work at all, they're going to get about the middle of the rubric. If they work hard, they could probably max it out. This is that winning streak that's going to build them some confidence and also make them want to do it, too. Nobody wants to work on things they're going to fail. So what's next? Well, after this unit, I'll probably make another unit. And in the process, I'll hopefully make the second unit better than the first one. They call this continuous improvement process, and it was formalized. Gee, in the 80s, it was a big deal. I went to a bunch of classes in industry, and it came from a Japanese concept called Kaizen. Small incremental changes that go, over time. And it's a lot like evolution itself, really. So I'll close with that topic. It's a good way to close a unit on evolution.